What up, pretty people? Welcome to Talking Too Much with Jeremy A. Rodriguez. He is I and I am him. And this is episode 1 of the Talking Too Much podcast. So, as you may or may not have noticed, this has been a bit of a change of format for me. This is my first video of any sort since UFC 259 Recap. And it is because I wanted to switch things up and be a little bit more multifaceted in terms of my content creation. So, if this is your first time listening, thanks for checking me out. If you get any value from this, I would absolutely love and appreciate for you to like, share, subscribe, etc. You know the deal, yada, yada, yada. Any case, a little bit about me and my intention. My name is Jeremy A. Rodriguez. I'm a real estate professional here in the state of Arizona. I live in beautiful Phoenix, and currently it is a overcast and somewhat chilly day for me, at least, in my warm-blooded Puerto Rican self. And my intent with this podcast would be to bring some entertainment. I would like to inform, educate, and build some semblance of tribe, build some good vibes, have some nice conversations, and ultimately just speak about things I'm interested in, things such as mixed martial arts, investment, personal development, growth, entrepreneurship, and overall, just how to improve and be a better person, put a spotlight on people that I find interesting or things I find interesting, and just grow, truly. So this is a journey towards more self-mastery, and I hope I can one day position myself to shine some light on some really special people that will probably never be famous, but I think have incredible stories, and just keep it real. I hope to bring measured perspective and just be someone that you can enjoy listening to. So, without further ado, the first subject matter of the day, I know I'm super late to it, is actually to recap Holland versus Brunson, the last UFC event this past weekend. And I gotta be honest, wasn't a card I was super looking forward to. And again, a reason I wanted to do the format change is that I don't want to be Mr. have to be excited about every single UFC card or every single MMA card or every single thing happening in combat sports. Because to be perfectly honest, I don't think I can be that person. I can't get excited about every single fight because frankly, it's impossible for me to be interested in every single fighter, every single fight. It has to have some significance. I have to be interested in your style. I have to be interested in your story, something or another. And there's so many out there that it's really hard to keep track. The UFC has a very large roster, let alone covering, am I interested in the fact that Gordon Ryan signed with one championship? Yes, but where that will go, I have no idea. I don't even know if he's going to fight MMA. He'll probably end up grappling someone and further cementing his status as the best no-gi grappler on earth. So, to be fair, there's far less people interested in that than if I just talk about UFC when I feel like it. So anyway, back to Holland versus Brunson. I gotta be honest, I've picked against Brunson in every single fight since his loss to Whitaker. That was the last fight that I picked him to win, and he won this fight rather easily. Got in trouble maybe twice against Holland, but really the story of the fight is what didn't happen, which was Holland did not make a good account of himself. And I don't want to be too critical because it's hard to be critical of these warriors that step into the cage and put their life on the line every single time. But man, after the first round and Holland was put on his back and was just kept there and didn't seem as active from his guard or willing to hurt Derek as he was against Jacare on his back, it just became embarrassing every time he shouted out to Habib for corner advice. In fact, the most exciting part of that card to me was watching the live stream of Habib sitting next to Dana and just live streaming it in his face. I mean, and I love all the memes that came out immediately. We found the Russian link, we found the streamer. That was perfect because that's exactly what I was thinking when it was happening. So but it was a hard fight to watch. I mean, sure, it had like exciting moments for like 30 seconds at a time at the beginning of each round, really, where it seems like Holland had landed some good blows and potentially could have Brunson in trouble, but Brunson landed his own licks too. And not to put all the blame on Kevin too. I mean, clearly he's got some sort of social anxiety. It's not quite Diaz-esque the way it manifests, but the talking is seemingly a cocktail of one part getting his opponent to be a bit disarmed or perhaps a bit emotional, but also for himself. Maybe that's how he gets going. But all I know is that he could not get going and seemed content to be controlled on his back and pitter-patter from the bottom. And equally to blame is Brunson being comfortable in Kevin's guard. Just being comfortable there and just doing just enough to slap him on the side of the head to keep the fight there. And overall disappointing. So again, thank you, Khabib, for making that fight that much more interesting, because that was my favorite part. I mean, I thought it was hilarious. And especially towards the end there when Dana's like, I can't watch any more of this. I think he was speaking for a lot of the fans there too. And, I'm going to be critical of Dana. And people that know me know that I'm pretty critical of Dana at times because clearly he's a promoter. I mean, the guy lies a lot. But in this case, I was right there with him. I was glad that I was watching the Khabib stream and was able to sync it up with the fight, because that made it way more interesting. But on that card, it would have been great if the Gregor Gillespie and Brad Riddell fight hadn't gotten canceled. And I mean, man, cancellations left and right. So that's tough. That would be a good fight to get rematched. Gregor's coming back after a big layoff from his loss to Kevin Lee. So I'm glad he took his time. And then Brad Riddell, a city kickboxing guy that is always fun to see. So you want to see if he's going to be able to keep that top pressure off of him and do what he does, which is strike and kick ass. So, but anyway, moving on, speaking of cancellations, as I mentioned, Ortega versus Volkanovski. That's a tough one. So we have UFC 260 this weekend, headlined by Stipe and Ngannou. And for Volkanovski versus Ortega to get canceled is a big blow, because you look at that card and it's fun, but nowhere near as stacked as the previous card. So the card is definitely not doing Stipe any favors in terms of cashing in on those pay-per-view points. But that being said, as the baddest man on the planet, I'm sure he'll still be compensated handsomely. But I was really looking forward to the Ortega versus Volkanovski fight. Volkanovski being the one with the positive test. Really unfortunate considering how strict the COVID protocols are there. So I'm not entirely sure if he'll be staying here to get his treatment or if he has to go back and receive treatment. I don't know how that works. I feel like it's unlikely that he could go back since they have such strict COVID protocols over there. And of course, he's from Australia. I'm only really familiar with what's going on in New Zealand because obviously Dan Hooker, Izzy, all those guys have had to deal with it. So, Australia may be as strict, not as strict. I don't know, but irregardless, really sucks. Big blow to the card. Ortega looked fantastic in his last fight against the Korean Zombie. And of course, Volkanovski quietly becoming one of the all-time greats at featherweight. And this is coming from me, who got into the sport because I love Jose Aldo so much, and was like as disappointed as I was for Jose when he lost to Conor and then when he lost to Max. Huge Max fan as well. So it's, Volk has had an uphill climb in terms of trying to endear himself to the fan base, but fantastic fighter. His wrestling defense, his scrambling ability, his offensive wrestling ability he showed against Max Holloway, and just his overall just top tier fighter. Fantastic, classic city kickboxing with his feints and amazing low kick game. So it's going to be interesting seeing where Brian was going to match up in that fight. But moving on to the rest of the card that's actually taking place, let me pull up the card here to have a peek. I mean, obviously it's headlined by Stipe and Ngannou, a rematch from their fight in 2018, which, wow, so much has changed since 2018. I mean, you think about the fact that this is Stipe's only second opponent in 3 years, like second different opponent, is crazy. It was Ngannou and then DC, and now back to Francis. And Francis certainly earned his way there, knocking out Curtis Blades, Rosenstruck. Who else? Was there anyone else? I mean, obviously he had that lackluster fight right after that fight against Derek Lewis, but, that's forgettable at this point. But, from a strategic perspective, Stipe versus Ngannou, very compelling fight still. Francis is every bit as dangerous as he was before, if not more. But how much did he show different in his last few stretches of fights than what he did as a number one contender? No one's come close to taking him down at all. And Stipe, on the other hand, has had these all-time classic fights with DC. And in the third fight in particular, was fantastic in the clinch. The fact that he was able to outmaneuver and outposition himself against DC, a Greco-Roman Olympic level wrestler, serious. So Stipe outboxed Francis in their first fight. He out-wrestled him. He out-cardioed him. He just outclassed him completely. So you have to wonder how much development could there have been in that time. A lot, I'm sure. But the fact that we haven't seen it in the cage for Francis, pretty interesting. So is Francis a dude who can flatline anybody, straight up send them to the shadow realm at any given point in time? Abso-freaking-lutely. We all know this. He's built like a god, an African god, and all-time, like, sweet dude. I mean, like, every time you hear this guy speak, it's just the amount of humility and gratitude you have to feel for your own life is palpable. I mean, the guy was in Africa digging in sand mines, has been a refugee, has literally been told he'd be nothing his whole life, and I believe didn't start even like hitting pads, like doing boxing training until he was like 25 years old. And now here he is around 33 or so, 34 maybe, and fighting for the UFC World Championship for a second time after just spending the least amount of time in the cage, sending people to hell. Like, man, he's an inspiring story. And when he talks about not having had a childhood and, wanting to give back and do stuff for kids and what it would mean to him to be champion, I mean, it's really something special. I mean, Francis is an all-time amazing character in this sport, and win or lose, I think he deserves not only his respect, but some glory for what he's accomplished in such a short amount of time. And he's also, I feel, a great crossover potential star. I mean, my fiance, who only watches when I force her to come along. I mean, Francis is probably her favorite fighter, so it just between his like laugh, like, like his big smile, but then the fact like he's physically imposing and backs up every bit of his physical, presence with his performance in the cage. Exciting. And then there's Stipe, the most slept on champ there is. I mean, the guy's been the favorite in what, like 2 or 3 of his championship fights. That's pretty crazy. Talk about an underrated cat. And he came out and put a show on in his last fight. I mean, the DC fights, the last 2 rather, were incredibly close, but his adjustments without his corner really like giving them to him in the second fight and attacking the body, and then having to adjust again when DC was no longer framing and putting his arms out, the way he still was able to stay in there, take DC's best shots and put it on him, and especially, as I mentioned before, be proficient in the clinch against such a decorated wrestler. Very fantastic performance. So in this one, I mean, obviously anything can happen in a fight. Every fight, in my opinion, is a 50-50. I'm going to go with Stipe. I'm going to go with the champ. It's unfortunate that both these guys just can't both win. It's not often that I feel that way, but man, just two all-class guys and like personal favorites of mine. The fact that Stipe is a full-time firefighter, paramedic, just a funny dude. I mean, even if he's got marbles in his mouth half the time, hilarious character, lighthearted, and just proven himself again and again and again to be the baddest man on the planet. So gonna go with him. I mean, it'll be hurt. My heart's gonna be pounding during that fight, just as it did the first fight. But it should be a good one. I'll certainly be tuning in. Next on the card would be Tyron Woodley versus Vicente Luque. And man, you gotta wonder. Is Tyron going to finally do what he's been saying he'll do? I mean, he's been incredibly lucid with his interviews this week and speaking to that he had been worried about too many other things outside of his control during his championship run, and that he's just been watching himself lose in his previous fights. But it's hard to speak to a man's perspective, and as much as I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, it seems that there's like a turning point in a lot of fighters' careers where they just, I mean, not everyone, but some fighters, to where you can kind of tell that they don't really want to hurt people anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong. When he fought Colby Covington, Colby is a hard guy to hit because he's put so much pressure on you, and he's a takedown threat, and he's going to put you up against the cage, and he's going to smother you. But to not once look like he was ready to unload and just put every ounce of anger and like hate on that dude that by that point, like, he certainly deserved. I mean, you got to wonder how is he going to turn it on for Vicente, who has, who's hittable. Vicente is hittable, right? But Vicente is well-rounded. He's a very good fighter. I mean, his losses to this point are only to top tier welterweights in the division. I mean, the dude is a savage. I mean, his Muay Thai, fun to watch. Dude walks forward and is there to put damage on people. His fight against Wonderboy was close. I mean, he ultimately lost, and I thought it was a pretty clear decision, but still, he was there, and he was putting hands on Wonderboy. He was landing kicks, he was landing punches. The dude was there to win. And before that, he lost to Leon Edwards, and I think I don't recall if he has a loss already to Kamaru or not, but I'm just going to say no for now. I don't know. Maybe I'll look that up later. I probably won't. But in any case, yeah, I mean, Vicente, it's hard not to lean his direction in this fight. Moving on to Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. I mean, I don't really have too much to say about this. Sean O'Malley is an interesting prospect, and he's clearly being teed up in this one. With all due respect to Thomas Almeida, the guy's been around. He's been exciting. He's tough. He's talented, but he's over his like apex. Like, he is not someone that they're looking to build into a star. It's not very likely that he ends up ranked in the top 15. It's not very likely at this point in his career that he makes a title run. I could be completely wrong, but he's on the back end of a 4-fight losing streak. And Sean O'Malley is coming off his clear, but I guess in his mind, controversial loss to Chito Vera. I mean, I'd expect Sean to style on him. And again, this is an MMA lab guy. He's a local Phoenix guy, so I'm going to root for him, to be clear. But this is a tee up as far as I'm concerned. And as I mentioned in my previous videos, of the 135-pound guys coming out that camp, the one I'm kind of putting the eggs in the basket would be Kyler Phillips. I think he's kind of like the dark horse coming out that gym at 135. I guess it's not the dark horse anymore with the defeat over Song Yadong, but it is what it is. And then honestly, down the rest of the card, call me king of the casuals, whatever, but I'm not abundantly interested. I mean, Kamaworthy is a fun and interesting guy to watch. Alonzo Menefield comes out and tries to knock dudes out. I'm pretty sure he's coming off a loss in his last one. So I could be totally wrong on that too, but I'm not going to look it up. Khabib's cousin, Abu Bakr, is going to fight. And then Shane Young, another City Kickboxing guy, is going to be on there against Omar Morales. So that could be fun, but ultimately pretty top heavy card. Let's be honest. I mean, the main event is what everybody's come to see. That's what I'm tuning in for. And, I have no other way to transition to the investment side of this podcast episode. So I'm just going to come right out and say it. Francis Ngannou is going to be the first fighter to put out an NFT. It's pretty cool. It looks like a card. It has FG on it and it's cool. It's black. Like, it looks tight. But this NFT craze, I find very interesting. I find it interesting because I think it's a great opportunity for artists to make some money, and I'm all for it. And I don't want to be critical of it because I still am trying to wrap my head around the whole crypto space. I mean, I'm a believer in cryptocurrency. I'm not an economist. This is not investment advice, right? But I'm trying to increase my position in the crypto space, right? There's only so much money to go around. I'm not Scrooge McDuck over here, so I'm not Mr. Moneybags to where I can go ahead and spend money on everything I'd like to just yet, right? But I'm trying to increase my crypto exposure, mainly Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe some Chainlink, and some Dashcoin. I don't know, right? But NFTs seem to me like a pretty clear-cut bubble. And I don't like throwing bubble out there because people say bubble about everything. And they say it's bubble in the stock market. They say it's bubble in the real estate market. It's exhausting. As an agent, stop telling me that the market's going to crash tomorrow. I've been hearing it for 4 years now. It's annoying. You can keep on shouting like Chicken Little, every single day for the rest of your life, and maybe you'll be right twice, right? Just be receptive to new information is what I'm saying. But in any case, NFTs, I think they're kind of ridiculous. As cool as I think they are, it's what bothers me about it is that it's clear that it's reached the hype culture, and hype culture is annoying because they ruin everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've delved into hype culture. I mean, I like a lot of hype culture things, right? If you have a collection of J's or Yeezys, whatever, cool. I've dabbled. It's not for me. I can't. The stress of dealing with the bots and all that nonsense, I can't do it. It's annoying. PS5, same thing. I want a PlayStation 5, but I'm not going to fight people for it. You know what? I don't even have that much time to play that much video games. So, you know what? I'll just wait until Christmas or something. And if it's still hard to get, maybe I'll ask one of my homies to hook it up because they're into resells. It's cool. It's not my jam to knock another man's hustle, to be clear, unless you're deliberately hurting people. But the thing with NFTs is that, I mean, outside of the top end of these guys making millions of dollars, I mean, there's Beezel crap, Beeble crap, Lush Sucks. I mean, these are guys these are artist pages that I like to follow. A lot of artists I like, Alex DMC. Honestly, I could rattle off a bunch of artists that have amazing Instagram pages, and I really appreciate their art. Literally every single artist I follow is trying to enter the NFT space right now, and a lot of it, this market is being driven by influencers who are frankly disingenuous about it. And the reason I say this is because you see it right now also happening with Pokemon cards. And dude, listen, when I speak about Pokemon, I'm not speaking in passing from a measured business perspective. I got Pokemon here, in my heart. I've loved Pokemon since I was a little kid. That was a great escape. I got I got Sword and Shield in the freaking living room, homie. I'm about it. But, when you got adults clearing out shelves of cards to resell and flip, it's just not what it's about to me. Let kids play with cards, man. Let kids have that same feeling that we did when we were kids. I remember walking around the corner store when I was a kid in Long Island, and getting fleeced for $7 a booster pack. And it's like, I would do it again, like saving up my allowance, asking for money, working, wanting to like get what everyone wants, that holographic Charizard. I mean, I'm more of a Dragonite guy, but I digress. But hype culture tends to like ruin a lot of stuff I like, and I don't really like it. And again, like, not over you're trying to knock your hustle, that's your thing. But if you're a grown ass man fleecing kids and bragging about it on your social media, you got mental issues, dude. For real. Like, there's like 1,000,001 ways to make money in this world, and you're over here like keeping Pokemon cards out of the hand of children. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself. But anyway, I guess as cleanly as I can transition from that. I mean, I guess there was no investment perspective there. I mean, sure, if you can buy an NFT and make money from it, whatever. But I like to buy art for the sake of having the art. I have some pretty cool limited pieces here and there, and I have no intention of selling them. I like them for me. I like to appreciate art. I like to be inspired by art. In different states of mind, like there are times where art meant one thing to me and it meant something else another time looking at it. Like, I like that kind of stuff, So, but, speaking of Pokemon and all that, I guess this is as good as time as any to talk about Asian culture. And right now, Asian culture has been in the spotlight because of the Stop Asian Hate movement. And, this movement in particular, I mean, they've all been important social movements. I mean, we're in transformative times, people, whether it be in investment or in social categories. Like, we're in amazing times. So like, if you could take a moment and like be thankful to be alive for a second. Wow. Interesting. Like, the history books in the next 20 years are going to have a lot to say about this period of time, or at least I hope it's transformative socially, and the democratization of investment and of social movements. I mean, powerful. But anyway, in regards to the Stop Asian Hate movement, I gotta be honest, I don't like calling it Stop Asian Hate. I don't like the name of it. I'll never be in charge of naming movements, but the fact that hate is even part of the narrative, I don't like it. Yes, I do believe that there have been hate crimes committed. It's terrible to see. I don't care whether it's a little old white woman, a little abuelita getting groceries, like my grandma's in the city, in New York City. My mom's in New York City. Like, I hate violence against people for no reason. I mean, I love, moments of contest and to see martial arts, done in a cage beautifully, right? I love mutual combat. I love like watching that art on display, but senseless violence based in just discriminate, like, just because of the way someone looks or what their culture is disgusting. There's never any room for it. And it's even more disappointing to see it become politicized in any sense. That being said, why not kind of put a spin on it? My fiance is Asian, Chinese, Japanese. I have tons of Asian friends, many of them being first generation Vietnamese Americans, first generation Chinese Americans. And it's interesting to see everyone's different take on what's happening. I had a brief exchange with a friend, who had a troll who was, trolling him for being Asian. And I was like, man, F that guy. Like, don't pay him any mind, right? There's not as many of them out there as you think. And he said, well, on the other side of the coin, there's probably a little bit more than sometimes we may admit. And, he's probably right. There's generally always like shades of gray with this subject matter. But what I would like to say is that as angry as we can be about any of this subject matter, I think it's important to try to approach things from a position of compassion. Because the more we dig our heels in and fuel the hate narrative, just as strong of an equal and opposite reaction there tends to be. And I'm not a physics major, but that tends to be how things go, especially because, controversy and division sells. And I don't want to be a product. I don't want to be manipulated. I don't want my emotions manipulated. I don't want to be tricked into being angry against white people. I don't want to be tricked into being angry against Muslims, because dichotomy and keeping us divided, whether it be by political lines or blind hatred and rage, is generally based in ignorance. So my response to the Stop Asian Hate movement is I look forward to Asians and people of all ethnicities to come together right now, show some love for your Asian friends, family, brothers, sisters, what have you, support their businesses, and just show some solidarity, right? We don't need to linger too much on the negative, whereas we can focus on some of the positives here. I mean, Asian food is fantastic. I mean, something is like having traveled to Japan and just be able to walk up to like some hole in the wall spot and get like some fantastic like grilled or fried chicken or fried pork in a rice bowl. So simple, but like absolutely delicious. I mean, dim sum. If you ain't had dim sum, what you talking about, right? A banh mi sandwich. Delicious. It's a Vietnamese dish influenced by the French. And so one of my points being is that I feel like whether it's Asian culture, Western culture, Eastern culture, it all is best when we come together, when there's like a synergy of it. It's almost like Taoism, right? That duality of yin and yang, right? Or Western philosophy likes to deconstruct things, whereas like Eastern philosophy likes to be really present. I think there's so much beauty that we can all learn from each other. And if you want to get stuck and linger in someone's differences and use that as a reason to commit acts of hatred on them, you really need to look inside yourself and like heal. I mean, like maybe you had a bad experience with an Asian person, white person, Puerto Rican person, black person, etc. You cannot brush everyone with the same brush and keep them in that frame of mind, because not only are you doing a disservice to people of that kind, but you're doing a disservice to yourself. You will remain stuck. And you will not grow as a person. And truly, having varied experiences and being enriched by other people's culture, to me, as a practitioner of Muay Thai and having been a lifelong fan of Asian art and martial arts and Japanese anime, but then also black culture and growing up in a home, my father was raised in the South Bronx, so like I love gangster rap. I love throwback, Isley Brothers or Motown, like Temptations, this is the spice of life, man. Like, you just got to experience new things and just have some gratitude for being alive and like show some love, for your people, to other people. Like, we got to stop the bullshit and just come together, So that being said, if you'd like to support the Stop Asian Hate movement, or rather spread Asian love or spread Asian culture movement, hey, you can spread some Asian love too, But there will be a march led by the Arizona Asian Chamber of Commerce, March 27th, beginning at 6 p.m. this Saturday at Mekong Plaza. And then at 7 p.m., there will be a candlelight vigil. So if you'd like to participate, you're more than welcome to. I will be doing a marketing event, but we'll try to be there afterwards. But it's a pretty busy time for me. I'm shuffling tenants around. In fact, that's my time today. I got to go deep clean one of our rental units and get it ready for the next tenant. So that's all for today. I will certainly be doing a recap of UFC 260 this weekend. And nothing but love, y'all. Stay up. Have a great weekend. Peace.